Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Right Media Group Chronicles. We dive into the real stories behind successful agencies, the wins, the lessons, and everything in between. Today, I'm joined by Emily Brackett, founder of Visible Logic. Emily, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
To kick things off, would you mind to tell me a little bit about your role and your day to day at Visible Logic, please?
Sure. Well, I am the founder of Visible Logic and president. I started the firm more than 20 years ago, so my role has changed a lot. Currently, my day to day is my big priorities are raising visibility for the firm, doing sales outreach, and then doing brand strategy work for our clients. That's my role with client work is the top strategic brand initiatives that we're doing for them.
What sounded great for me there is usually agency owners, or as you mentioned, your president now, they don't really have time to focus on business development. It seems like for you, that's sort of like a dedicated role. You're like, this is important. I need to focus on that.
Yes, that is probably my number one thing is business development. We have found that I'm able to talk with people and convince them, build that trust, right? That they should work with me and the team, even though some projects they probably won't work with me a lot. They are trusting that I've vetted the team and laid out a plan that's going to work for whatever they need developed. So, yeah, business development for Visible Logic is my number one thing I do.
Can you give some advice to other agency owners that are sort of not prioritizing that pipeline because they're so sort of keen on
Yeah.
focusing on delivering for their clients? They tend to put their own agency on the sort of back end, like, oh, if I have time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been there before myself. You get that roller coaster then of, you're busy with client work and you're not doing the outreach that you should. And then maybe you run out of leads, right? Or you run out of work and you run out of leads and then you're feeling the pinch. So I think it's really important to prioritize it. It doesn't have to be you, it could be somebody else, but somebody needs to prioritize it. And the agency owner usually has not is first of all most invested in it, and second of all is usually a really good face for the company. So in our team, for example, I really have set up my calendar to prioritize that outreach time, and my team helps me to keep those times on my calendar and not like, oh, let's just throw a client meeting in there because she could move that. So that definitely for like the new business development, that's protecting my schedule and then doing it. And then for the other things, it is bringing in the rest of the team. Like, okay, I'm not going to do all of the LinkedIn posts for Visible Logic or things with our blog. I can't do it all. So those are, I'm delegating to the writer and our social media person. So to do all those things on behalf of me and the firm. Most of the things that I post on LinkedIn are really 100% coming from me, but it's the things that come from the firm that I have the team do.
Yeah, so it's obviously important to have that team structure in place. So you sort of delegate, and then you have that free time that you can really focus on that pipeline.
Yes, yes. We keep coming back to the idea that how would we do this if Visible Logic was the client, right? If Visible Logic was the client, then our account manager would make sure that we're meeting the client's needs. We would use our project management tool to task it all out. We would keep a schedule, we would keep a budget. And the more we've done that, acted like both client and agency, that's how we stay with it.
That's a really good advice. I'd never thought about it from that perspective. So think of yourself or your own business as the client. Like, what would you do for your client? That's a good approach to take. So with outreach, what sort of channels have worked best for you in order to focus on that pipeline?
Sure. I mean, the things that are most successful are outreach where there's a start of a connection already. So, for example, we do a lot of, it's me cold calling people, but I have a lot warmer response if it's like, hey, you probably know this client that we've already worked with. then that is like, oh, okay, I can trust this person. So if there's some connection to me and our company or one of our clients that we could really say, like, this is something we've done with somebody else, those are the things. So I'm doing those same outreaches to other people when there's not that connection. Obviously, the success rate is a lot lower.
Yeah, of course. When was it? Because usually, how agency owners, you've been in the game long, so you know really the ins and out. But usually, how it starts up with there's no outreach. It's really sort of networking and referrals being the two main sources.
Yeah.
When was the switch for you when you're like, I need to focus on the outreach now?
It was a little over a year ago. So this is not a long, long
Mm.
time. I would say in 2024, I recognized that I need to do it more, but I kind of was fumbling around. And then in 2025 is when I really became very systematic about the process I'm using, the time I'm dedicating to it, the tools I'm using, everything. So it really has not been that long.
I see. It's good that you've come to that realization, right? Because there's
Yes.
so many agents in the game are still like, yeah, rely on referrals and
Mhm.
networking. And I'm like, that's great. If that's working for you, awesome. You know, later down the line, they might need to explore other strategies as
Mhm.
well.
Definitely.
What does visible logic does today? Like, do you have a niche or are you more general? And what sort of services do you provide for your clients?
Yeah. So we are a branding and creative services firm, first and foremost. So the services include starting from the top, sort of brand strategy, if people are launching a new product or entering a new market, how that might be adjusting an existing brand. Definitely launching new brands too is a lot of fun, a lot
Mhm.
of things that we do.
Um,
So we do naming, we do visual identity. Websites are probably the number one thing we do because for most businesses, that's where everything about their brand communications come together, right? It has to have the right value proposition, it has to be tailored to the right client base, so the right messages, the right graphics, everything comes together, right? It usually is a key part of their marketing campaigns. So websites are a big part of what we do. And then we'll do other content driven marketing. So, blog writing, social posting are the two that we do because we're really good at that clarifying message. And our ideal client is sells a tech product, something very innovative or specialized. And they usually know their business inside and out. They might be founded by a engineer or something like that, but getting that message so it's clear and understandable without dumbing it down to their target audience, that's our sweet spot. We love to do that work and we do it really well.
Mhm. I recently heard this sort of a new advice that apparently blogs are very good for AI SEO. Blogging is really the key to that because it loves sort of stories, which you can take advantage of in the blogging.
Yeah, what we're finding there is, yeah, it's definitely the mindset around the purpose of a blog for search results has changed a lot since AI. So in like the past year, when you think about somebody has a question, and if it's kind of a general question, they might go to an AI source like Chat GPT or Gemini or wherever they like to go and ask that question. And if there's just so many resources out there that have already answered that question, ChatGPT just gives you the answer, or Google in in your results. It just gives you that answer. But when you ask for something more specific, then it starts to say like, this is what I found and this is the source for it. So that's when you
Mhm.
need to be like writing these blogs that are far more in depth or unique in some way than you did a few years ago. It's not just like the keyword in there. It's really
Yeah,
think about how somebody would be asking for that and answering it there in a blog that would be cited by AI.
very, very interesting for sure. What would you say is working really well in the agency right now, in your opinion?
Yeah, so at Visible Logic, one of the things that we do that is unique is we also, in sort of running in parallel to Visible Logic, is I developed a software called Branding Compass. And that has a DIY version of the platform that is available for solopreneurs, people who really wouldn't hire Visible Logic, but we've really been working on our, we're kind of calling it the enterprise version of it, which is how do we use this technology platform that we've invested so much in to bring it to the branding process? So we can go, somebody's asking for a proposal, especially if it's really about like a lot of brand strategy, initial, like a brand pivot, rebrand, that kind of thing. Typically, an agency is like, okay, well, this is going to take like a lot of different meetings and months of input and some kind of field things like a lot of people in a room or on a Zoom trying to give input. It's very unwieldy. It's very lengthy. It's very expensive. So we have taken what we built for Branding Compass, which gives everybody an equitable voice, super efficient. Everybody answers the question, and then it highlights where we have agreement and where we have non-agreement, so we can spend our time on the areas that there's not agreement. So back to your original question, we're finding that's helping us win projects because we can say, well, you go with this agency and their discovery phase is going to be, at least 90 days, maybe 5
Wow.
months. Come
Yeah.
with us, we can get it done in 30 days. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, that's
we're finding
incredible.
that to be really,
Yeah.
really
I've
helpful.
found that it's sort of like a common thread where the cycle takes too long, and it's not initially on the agency, sometimes on the business because they don't have the time to provide the information. So
Yes.
this really cracks the code for you.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, well done for you, to create something like that in-house.
Yeah, thank you.
Sort of controversial to that. Would you say there's any challenges in the agency space right now?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think 2 things were, just over the span of the 20 years I've been in business, and it's continuing to this day, is people want things faster and faster.
Tell me
I
about
would
it.
say speed is the number one thing, right? So at some point they are this is only possible if we're using AI, for example, but then do they want, like, is AI going to give us the right solutions, or how do we use it to improve our speed without diminishing the end result? I think that's a challenging spot, and also a challenging spot to explain to clients. Like, we've had clients who said, "Oh, I don't want you to use any AI when you write our blogs." And I was like, "Wait, don't you want us to like maybe use AI to help us inquire what are people asking about that we should
Yeah, or
write
like
about?" Like, there's
improve it that little step.
yes. There's so many ways you can use AI, not just go, write me a blog about XYZ topic. Obviously, that's going to be worthless, but I think we should be using AI. But how you say that, like how you're using it and how you explain to the client and how the client feels comfortable with that,
So
that's a challenge right now in the industry. I mean, probably
absolutely,
not
agree
most
with you.
industries.
Yeah, yeah, probably it is because 'cause we've sort of getting over that hype, right? And, there's
Yes.
businesses out there like, "I don't wanna use AI, I wanna differentiate myself." Then it does make you more efficient. Somebody said to me, "AI output is only as good as the person using it."
Mhm.
So you, with your experience around branding, you really know what you want the final output to be. But with the power of AI, you can really create incredible results.
I totally
Yeah,
agree with that.
so much power to that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've had people say that, well, I could just go to ChatGPT and say, give me some colors for my business. It's like, but what are they basing that on? They're probably basing it on, well, other businesses like you use these colors, but you probably want to differentiate from other businesses like you.
Of
That's one of
course.
the pillars
Yeah.
of branding. So, but then how do you differentiate, right? Like if they say everybody's using pink, well, I'm not going to use pink. Well, what color are you going to use? So that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah. Exactly. It's
using
like
that combining.
with your guidance, it just becomes really powerful. But if somebody like I was using it, I don't know anything about branding. I
Yeah.
just take the first output that's given to me and probably roll
Mhm.
with it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um,
Big mistakes.
yeah, for sure. Are there any other ways that you are utilizing AI to make yourself that more efficient?
I love Fathom for
Tell me about
I
it.
think we
Yeah.
talked about this, right? I just happened we started Zoom has their own sort of AI summary, and
Oh, it
it's
started
good.
recently. Yeah, yeah.
It's good, but then somehow, I mean, the Fathom got on my radar very kind of just I read somebody's blog and I heard they were like I was like, "Wait, what are you doing?" And I learned about it and I love that tool. I mean,
I wonder what the world was like before note takers was a thing.
I know. Well, I have many like paper to attest that that's what I did. Everybody handled it differently, but I had them all by
You
hand.
probably needed to have like a quick hand as well. And I'm sure there were things you missed out. And now with note taking, you can't.
You can yeah, I can really just pay attention and be listening and not being worried about catching a detail. Like, okay, I know that I can come back and get that detail and just really engage in the conversation. I love it.
Yeah, of course. And are there any sort of workflows that you're exploring as well? Because this seems to be a huge incoming thing where they're sort of
Yeah.
connected and then it sort of gives you like a final output.
Yeah, yeah. So I know that our account manager uses Fathom also, and then she it gives her a checklist of what was decided in a meeting, and she converts those into tasks in ClickUp. We use ClickUp for our project management, so she does that. We haven't like set it to like completely automate it. She still like reviews them. I'm not sure
Yeah,
we're ready
yeah, of course.
to just set up the tasks, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
it's
big
still
time
useful.
saver.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
useful. Yeah.
Is there any campaign that you can bring to the show? I mean, as long as there's no NDAs in and around branding, maybe like a recent project you felt passionate about?
Well, why don't I talk you through a startup launch that we did recently? So the company, they're Unar Labs, and it's a fascinating business. They are helping people who are visually impaired.
Ooh.
You can imagine students who are in school, if you are trying to, it's one thing, it's pretty easy. There's ways to convert text to Braille. That's a pretty easy thing, or even text to speech now. But if you're looking at, say, a mathematical equation or a map of the world or a map of anything, right? We can't convert that to Braille or text. So they are developing a tool that will help like kind of create a language and create some sort of things where people will use it on their phone and use those haptic things and text and textual things all together. And it's so fascinating. They have an SBIR grant to do this and funding to do this, SBIR funding to do this from the government. So anyway, they have a company name, but they needed a name for this new product that they're launching, and that was really fun. So we called it Morph, and because that's what they're doing, they're really sort of morphing from something that's like a flat 2D that's really inaccessible to this group of people, and morphing it into something that is accessible to them.
Yeah.
So we developed the name, we developed their logo, then we redid their website to showcase because now that's their flagship product. That's a company really with one flagship product, which is thinking about their strategy of how they want to name their company and name their products. That's how they want to go so they can introduce additional products later. So that was a real fun one to do. Something I'm really proud of the results.
Yeah, I mean, it's even like for such a good cause, and like in order for you to like you want to promote that product because you're like, this is for such a great cause, and like, and for this
Definitely.
segment of the market that like are genuinely struggling with this issue. So I love that. It gives me goosebumps, projects like that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Talking about growth, Emily, what is the plan for Visible Logic this year or next year? If you've got any milestones you want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're definitely in growth mode, 100%. We have, you've probably heard of like big, hairy, audacious goals, BHAGs. So our 10-year goal is to do what we call 150 brand fixes. We were trying to come up with some name to talk. We're like, how do we, sometimes it's a website, sometimes it's a name, sometimes it's a strategy. So we called it like, well, we fixed their brand. So we have this goal of doing 150 brand fixes over the next 10 years. And so we have laid that out. So, to stay on track this year, we will need to do another, I think, 13 of those. We're about years into our 10-year plan. So yeah,
Nice,
that's
nice.
exciting.
I love that you sort of didn't just go like, "Oh, this year we're planning to do this." You have that like bigger goal, and you
Yeah,
have those little milestones that you want to reach and get there, and that's
yeah.
beautiful. I hope you get there as soon as possible. If you had a magic wand to fix one thing to help you achieve the goal faster, what would it be?
I think it would be connecting with prospects who want that kind of work. We get a lot of inquiries from people who are not really an ideal client for
Yeah.
what they do, or they're not really looking for that exact type of project. It's okay. We do some of that. Sometimes we say no, sometimes we don't. But like if I had a way of just being like, these are all these people, like Morph was like, they were like perfect. They needed this stuff. And that would be my magic wand. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you, like, when it comes to you speaking to your prospects or just business owners, do you find that you need to do a lot of education in order to take them down the route of why branding is important? Or what is the process like for you? Because I wonder if businesses realize how important branding actually is.
We have found that our most ideal clients don't need that education because if I'm almost like convincing of them of this issue, it's probably not going to be a good fit. They might question the value of what we're doing, etc. What I do find though is we often meet with somebody who they recognize the problem, but they would call the solution something else, meaning and they might come to us, they're like, "Oh, our website's not working," or "This marketing campaign is not working." And we do an audit and we say, the problem is really with your brand. Like, you never took the time to who is your target market? Who's your ideal client profile? What is your value proposition to them? They never did that. And so when they do that, then it's suddenly like, and we implement that messaging on the website or do those tweaks to the marketing campaign, suddenly everything's working again. But they came to us with the idea of like, I need a website or a marketing campaign. But really, we kind of forced that to be like, the issue is with your brand.
Yeah, but it's like you say. I mean, branding is sort of the foundation of everything. And if you try to accelerate that by marketing, paid advertising, you can't accelerate something that's broken or has got gap in,
Yes.
right? You need to have a good foundation, and that's where you come in with your branding. You have
Yep.
marketing, so that walks hand in hand, like you just said. And then there's
Absolutely.
obviously sales, which is like the next sort of
Yeah.
next sort of a beast, shall I say.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, very
same thing
important
with
for
the
sure.
sales. We'll have people come in and say, "Well, all of our sales teams, like, we need a sales deck." Like, if that's their main, if they're really more like sales driven, sales team driven, then it's same thing. "Oh, can you work on a PowerPoint deck for us?" But it's like, well, what are we putting in this deck? You need, again, what are the value propositions? Like, what are their pain points? What are you answering that with?
Of course.
How do we show that visually or with words or with the script you're gonna say? So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Emily, thank you so much for making the time for this podcast and putting value out here for everyone to see.
Yeah.
If people wanted to connect with you, find out more about your services, where should they find you?
Yeah. So, visiblelogic.com is the website, or brandingcompass.com if they are interested in that DIY platform. And then on LinkedIn, that's the social media platform that I am most active on. So, just, put in Emily Brackett, I'll come up right away. And that's where I love to connect with people.
Awesome. We'll make sure all the links are dropped below so people can locate you easily. And for anyone who enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and let me know down in the comments your favorite takeaway from Emily as well.
Thank you.